Hi everyone, welcome back to We Should Talk, a pop culture interview series from In the Know. I'm your host, Gibson Johns, and this week on the podcast we have Mya Allen from Summer House on Bravo. Mya is one of the new cast members on this season, and she has just been such a breath of fresh air, and I think that her authenticity, her humor, her positivity has just been so well received by a majority of viewers this season, and she's had several breakout moments, so I was just excited to get some time with her to discuss those moments, to discuss the drama that's happened this season, discuss where she sort of stands in the group, and what sort of she thinks about her future on the show, because I think, again, she's been so well received and people love her, and I'm just excited to see sort of what the continued trajectory of her time on the show would look like. So we dove into it all, and we talked a lot about sort of what her experience was like and how that differed from what she expected it to be, the Lindsey, Sierra, Austin of it all, and sort of who's getting blamed for that whole situation. We really dove into it all, and she had some really amazing things to say. So keep listening for my interview with Mya Allen from Summer House. Tune into Summer House Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern on Bravo. And please rate, review, and subscribe to We Should Talk on Apple Podcasts or wherever you air podcasts. All right, so we're here with Mya Allen from Summer House, the newest house guest on the show. Mya, everyone's loving you this season. I'm so happy to be talking to you. How are you?
I am good. I'm living a suburban life out here in Boston for the week, so I can't complain.
You know, sometimes we need a break from the city, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's much needed. I didn't know I needed it, but I'm very happy to have it.
Mm-hmm. So how are you? I mean, we're deep into the season of Summer House. This is a new experience for you.
Yeah.
How has this been so far?
I don't know. It's hard to even put in words. It's extremely overwhelming, I think, to put yourself out there, especially in the time of my life that I was in. I was in very much like a transitional phase during the summer. And so knowing all of that and then watching it back, it's crazy. It's weird. I'm getting judged for literally processing what my life was like on camera. And that in itself is really scary. I think every 20 something, or no, 30, so 30 something goes through those moments of like, where am I in life? What am I doing? Like, what's going to happen in 10 years? What's going to happen in 20 years? And I just happen to have lived that segment of my life on camera. So it's very surreal to watch, but also really cool to see the growth that I've had since then.
100%. And how, I mean, I guess like I'm curious what your mindset was going into filming, and just sort of like, I know you were in a pretty raw place personally,
Yeah.
But like in terms of the actual, like what you expected from the show and then sort of what it's actually been like, how has that differed for you?
I've always watched reality television. Like, I'm definitely a junkie. I'm a Bravoholic, just like everybody else. So I think in a way I walked in with blind confidence, like knowing what I was going into. I was like, okay, even the craziest thing, I will understand it, or I've seen it before.
Sure.
That's not true.
Like, wishful thinking.
So far from the truth. Wishful thinking. Just like the rawness of it all, to be there, the amount of hours that are spent, I didn't know. And I always joke, because like I'm always thinking like corporate and how I can make things more efficient and on the operation side of things. And I would say production during the summer, like, hey, I think there should be like a welcome to Summer House, or like welcome to reality television, like guidebook
orientation.
Nobody can prepare you for this. And honestly, when you're thrown in, you were just thrown in, and it's like, figure it out. And that in itself was scary, but I'm also like, hey, I'm standing, I did it. And was I shaking getting my mic on for the first time? Absolutely. Did I think I was going to pass out? Yes. Do I remember like those first few hours meeting everybody? Absolutely not.
Nobody would. Everyone, I feel like that's the real experience right there.
Yeah. Don't know what happened. Just know that it was like, honestly, a mind for lack of a better word.
Yeah. Did you said you're a Bravoholic. Did you watch all of Summer House before? Did you watch, I guess Winter House hadn't aired yet, so you weren't familiar with what that all was. So that must actually added to the mind.
I actually didn't know about Summer House, which is weird.
Winter
in
House,
itself.
you mean?
So,
or Summer House?
Winter or summer. Both.
Oh, okay.
I'd never heard of the show. I was very much like diehard Real Housewives. I just started dabbling in Below Deck. I love them both. And so I, especially during the pandemic, was trying to catch up. I just started Real Housewives, like any franchise at all, in 2020.
Oh my God.
Don't worry,
amazing.
I'm now caught up 100%.
Proud of you.
Like, you can ask me anything. But that was my quarantine. So I didn't know about Summer House, and I didn't know the cast. I didn't know about the dynamics. I met Paige and we connected, but beyond that, I had no idea what I was walking into. And I honestly decided not to binge before going on because
Smart.
I thought it would be more authentic and more organic. And I think that is what ends up being seen.
Yeah. And I think we can get into this a little bit, but I've been interviewing the Summer House people since season 1. And like, I've seen newbies come and go and I think usually, and I think it's really smart that you didn't really know about the show, that you didn't try to binge the show, because I think there's sort of like an inauthenticity that comes with that, with like knowing too much or like maybe trying too hard. And it's probably subconscious for a lot of the people that have come and gone, but like that probably set you up kind of for success just in that regard. And I think that was smart of you to do that.
I definitely think it made it easier. I was also able to, I wasn't playing dumb. I was just dumb and able to act or be very naive to a lot of the dynamics that already existed. And that in some part, like that, I learned about the dynamics there for myself. I was able to form my own opinions, not based off of, what is seen on the very small scope of what we experience while filming.
Totally. So did anybody give you like a crash course like in that first weekend? Like were you like Paige, like, okay, just give me the 411? Like was there anybody that gave that to you?
No one gave it to me, and it wasn't for lack of trying. I tried to get information, and almost everyone was like, learn these people on your own, like figure out for yourself how you feel about them, and then like, as you get to know people and you form your opinions, maybe I can tell you that I agree or disagree. And that in itself was great. I think there were moments, listen, it's very obvious there's a divide in our house for the females. And I think that I got thrown in a very weird situation because there were very separate groups, and I'm not the type of person to like just acclimate to a group and move on. So I did want to get to know everyone. But I will say that as time went on, I learned basically everybody's opinions of each other and why the beef is there, and trying to figure out, navigate what it means to be not in the middle, but just fair.
Sure. Yeah. And playing both sides, but also not in like a conniving way, just like, because I feel like you're someone who naturally gets along with a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm just like not I don't believe in sides. Like that's like silly. We're old enough for that. Like I can have a relationship with you outside of whatever beef you have with my friend, because it shouldn't matter. We shouldn't bring that friend into our space. And so I think to even prove that to a lot of the women in the house was difficult. Obviously I came in as Paige's friend, so that was my immediate connection. And I continued to be Paige's friend throughout the entire summer. But I wanted to make new friends as well. And I think trying to prove in a way that I wasn't just Paige's friend was a little bit tricky in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's a scene early on where Carl's in your room, and it seems like he was really welcoming to you at the beginning. Obviously you and Paige and Sierra have become this like really tight knit trio. I interviewed Danielle, and she said that you're like a sister for life for her. Is there anybody in the house that you feel like the connection is still lacking with them, or that you still have kind of a ways to go before you, I don't know, feel that closeness?
I feel like that's a loaded question, just because so much has happened since the summer.
Right.
That, viewers may or may not ever hear about. So I'm still navigating those relationships. There are definitely people from the house that I keep in constant contact with. And then there are people that I do check in with every now and then. It's just not as frequently. But I think at this point, we are all past the point of acquaintances. So it's kind of like figuring out where the real friendship is now. How many months are we? Almost a year removed.
Yeah, it's almost a year removed, which is wild, probably, and probably again for you, a wild thing to relive.
Even all this. To say that is crazy, yeah.
Totally. And you came into this season again, really raw, I think, with in terms of like your love life. And also I think that, you know, in a recent episode, we saw you talk about like how that affected your self-confidence. And it seemed like that was kind of just like a raw feeling for you. And did joining the show, do you think that you were searching for any sort of like healing in that regard, or like just by jumping into this, or is it not that serious?
My goals going into this were like, don't get drunk, like basically don't embarrass yourself, and don't cry on camera. And like, as everyone's seen, I cry a lot, apparently. Like, I cry more than I was aware that I cry watching this back. And I'm like, I promise everybody, like, I have fun. I'm not just like this girl that's going through like all this emotional trauma as like I'm trying to live a life this summer. No, it's not entirely who I am, but my expectations going into it were wrong. And I think like I didn't expect to heal during it, but I did expect to have a better sense of self afterwards. And I definitely know that I gained that, because you can only trust yourself in these moments. And I started to have much more trust in myself and my intuition and my gut while navigating the summer.
Yeah. And some of those conversations, even with the girls, like some of those, that just seemed like such a solid support system for you in this summer. And that's not, you can't fake that. That was real. And I loved those scenes.
We had so many moments, during the week when we were in the Hamptons, just like chatting, getting to know each other and having those really vulnerable moments. And I think that in itself made it so much easier to be vulnerable on camera.
Mm-hmm.
I never ever anticipated sharing like, oh, this is what I talk about with my therapist, and like I have trouble with confidence and I have insecurities just like everybody else. And I that in itself is heavy. I'm still recovering from Monday's episode.
Totally.
I'm still recovering from the reaction to Monday's episode. I'm still trying to figure out like if I was in a state that was truly that low to be crying at a really fun party. But I'm learning about myself.
We've all been there, okay?
Yeah, I guess we've all been there. I didn't know that tears like applied to me, but evidently they do. And those feelings were still real. I just maybe wasn't the place at the time.
It comes out when it comes out, and nobody's gonna blame you.
As you see.
And so there's this really in-depth Instagram account called Reality Pollsters, I want to say, and they just like really mine like fan engagement and viewer reactions after every single episode, specifically for Summer House. And like you've
really I've never even heard of this.
Yeah, it's honestly
Reality
fascinating.
Pollster?
Yeah, Reality Pollster.
No, I'm into
honestly,
data.
I'm gonna send you one of the posts after, but like
please do.
One of the things that they monitor is just like likability of everyone, and it's just fascinating to see, I think, how sort of like the viewers are skewing after every episode. But like, and this is not to blow smoke, but like you are consistently up there with Carl as the top 2 most liked on the show. Like pretty much like.
So is the answer to just not get blackout and then you'll be likable? Like,
no,
is
but
that it?
I think something that's kind of a through line with you and Carl is that you're both, and again, maybe this wasn't even like what you were consciously trying to do, but you've both been very open about just like things that you're going through, whether that's just personally or with other things. And obviously you're both going through different things, but I think you're both incredibly authentic in how you open up about I think just what's happening inside. And I think that people react to that. And I'm curious, and you said that you're sort of dealing with still, the reaction to Monday's episode. And I'm just curious, what, like, do your DMs just get flooded after every episode when in those, especially those more vulnerable ones, or how do you deal with just like that onslaught?
I do want to speak to Carl for a second. And I met Carl, and in the first 3 minutes of talking, he was like, I'm 36. He was like, I think my hairline is receding. I'm newly sober. I'm like basically dealing with loss, and this is who I am. Like, that was within the first few minutes of speaking. And so I was like, okay, I can match you. Or like, totally. Misery loves company in a weird way, but like, you're not alone. I have my own grief and trauma and stuff that I'm dealing with. And to meet someone and they threw it all, like he threw it on the table, I was like, how can I not
do the same,
feel connected to this person and do
Mm-hmm.
the same, like give them the same in return. And so you'll see, well, I honestly, there's so much talking that Carl and I did this summer. And I think that if he wasn't that open to begin with, like in the same way that the viewers are in love with Carl and in love with his vulnerability, I was like, this is so great. This is amazing. This doesn't happen, especially for a guy.
Yeah,
And I was like, how can I not be friends with this person?
it's rare. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then speaking to sort of like the onslaught of
The
reactions that you
reaction
get.
of it.
Yeah.
Um, it's tough. I think that for one, I do want to acknowledge the fact that people are reaching out and they are really reaching out. And I do try to read and respond to as many as possible, but there's never going to be an opportunity that, or even enough time in the day that I can do that. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think that in itself and losing that human connection is the toughest part for me. Um, Also, people are crazy and people are funny, and you have to put yourself. Sometimes I'm like, man, I've just never thought to open my phone of an account of a person that I see on TV and say something mean. Like, it's one thing to be like,
Mm-hmm.
let me just like give them a word of encouragement. But the depths that people will go to troll online, it's just truly
Yeah.
incredible. And I think that what I try to remind myself is there's so much more positive than there is negative. But that doesn't make it any easier. And I was actually talking to Sierra yesterday and I was like, listen, I decided I'm not even deleting any negative comments on my Instagram anymore, because while being on reality TV is like, it's fantasized in a way, there's also parts to it that are really challenging. And I'm not going to contribute to this front that it's like all roses and butterflies, because it's not. It's something that Mondays are hard for every single person in that lived in that house this summer. They have to be. Leading up to Mondays is even more challenging. And following the comments of Mondays, you have to take it in stride. But this is the reality of being on reality television. And it's not this like, well, it is a dream job. It's really cool. It is really cool. And I'm very grateful. A lot of people don't get this opportunity. And I've had so much fun and I've learned so much and I've been exposed to so many things. But it's also taxing. And there is a realness to it that I feel like sometimes doesn't get acknowledged in a weird way.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think it's amazing because again, like I told you, like the everything that I've seen about you, and like I'll monitor the hashtag here and there, and like it's all positive, but it just ignores the fact that like everyone still gets negative comments, and it's
Yeah.
you could get 1,000 positive and the one negative is just going to live rent free in your head, and it's unfair that that's how it is, but that's the experience. And I think that for you to not shy away from that and not ignore that is really healthy, and I think that,
I mean, don't get me wrong, at first I deleted everything.
of
Like,
course
I was like, this is horrible. Like, I don't want anyone else to think this way about me. If one person thinks this and if someone else reads it, like, they'll jump on the bandwagon. But this is life. This is what it is. You are criticized at every moment, and I think there needs to be a level of realness to it.
Mm-hmm. And does that prevent you from kind of really diving into those responses? Because like, because I'm sure they're mostly positive, but sometimes if the negative kind of filters through, it makes it a hard experience.
Listen, I don't bite my tongue. I am not afraid to speak my mind. And I think that is the most challenging. I have to talk myself out of replying to the tougher, even if they're not necessarily directed negatively towards me, even if they're directed at my cast members, and I feel like this perception of said cast member is just wrong, I want to say something. And I've had a really hard time deciding when it's appropriate. I can also say that I've absolutely edited myself. Given the race conversation, I've had a lot of comments about race.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's a given. I've never been called the N-word so many times in my life.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And that in itself is damaging. But I also have a platform now that I want to spread some level of like positivity and empowerment around being a person of color. And I think that when I'm feeling like I want to react and educate someone, I don't know that I have the tools right now to do it in a way that's going to be productive. And so I've been just shying away. I haven't been as open about responding, especially to the race stuff, because again, I'm being judged and I'm scared to continuously be the girl that's pulling the race card. That's what I get anyway. It's like you're boring. You're not, it's not because you're Black, it's because you're boring. It's like, okay, cool. Maybe I am boring, but my Black experience is real, and learning and navigating and determining when to respond and when not to has been extremely hard, because I feel like I have to keep myself quiet. And I hate that.
Yeah. And it's almost, I'm sure that it's sort of also in the back of your mind, it's sort of like, if I respond, I'm shining more light on that hate and on that.
Yeah. It's like almost they want a reaction and I'm giving it to them.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's tricky.
Well, I'm really sorry you're going through that. And I hate to hear that, but I do want to reiterate that, like, there are so many people in your corner, and I know that because I monitor a lot of just this reaction to the show. And I really hate that you have to be subject to that. And I know that you've probably discussed the conversation that you and Sierra led in the house, which, again, like, I haven't been that affected by a scene on a reality show in a really long time, or maybe ever. And, as somebody who's been watching Bravo for a decade now, and I've watched the efforts to diversify some of these all-white casts and just kind of take that step forward in terms of representation and better representation. I think that that conversation, to me, one of my biggest takeaways from that was just the importance of not just throwing one person of color into an all-white cast and then calling it a day, and I think you and Sierra having each other, also Alex being there, also Danielle being there as people of color in this majority white space, to have that sounding board and to be able to talk about that experience. To me, that's my biggest takeaway, is like, it has to be more than just one person. It does
have to be more than one person. In speaking of editing myself, yesterday had to stop myself from clapping back at someone saying, like, can you replace Sierra already? Why does there have to just be one? Why is it that we are or like automatically put against each other because we're both Black? There should be space in this setting for more Black people, for more people of color, for people that are LGBTQ plus whatever, you know what I mean? There should be space for everybody. And who are we as viewers to decide what box to put people in? So that in itself, like, yes, that I'm like, come on, this is a narrative that doesn't need to exist. In terms of, people are just hard. I don't know how else to say that.
I think we could, we can honestly, we can move on, because I don't want to kind of marinate in that negativity, honestly. But I think all I'll say is try to keep your head up, because I think there's a lot of people hopefully propping you up. Let's get into something a little bit more, just
like,
in the drama.
It's 11 a.m. Should I be drinking?
Okay, so Lindsey's birthday party, like, I feel like every summer, and I know you haven't seen past seasons, but almost every summer it results in just like a wild episode, whether like it just always does. And I think that tracks, Lindsey is a big Leo, and she owns that. She loves that. But her birthday party this year is attracting, like, I don't know, more drama than probably the rest of the summer. But when we think about the Sierra, Lindsey, Austin of it all, you were there in that moment when there was the big blow up in the kitchen, and Paige is going off, Lindsey's going off. But there was also kind of side moments that happened sprinkled out throughout that you probably weren't privy to right in that moment. Watching that entire thing play out, was there anything that surprised you or that you really learned about while watching it back?
I knew about the door slamming in the face. I didn't see it, and I didn't realize how deliberate it ended up looking. So that was kind of striking. But would it remind me more? It's weird. Like, I've obviously said my piece on Austin, but I had a really good time with Austin at the wedding. I will say that. So, like, it's weird now looking back, because the way I felt about Austin, like, during the summer had somewhat changed come fall. And now it's like, I'm right back to that summer feeling. And I'm reminded and triggered about all the things. He just caused so much chaos. I can't even begin to describe the fact that he almost got into a fight with every single person that lived in that house. He got into a fight with me. Like, he tried to come at me, and I was like, I don't even know you. Over? Like, he basically told me that, like, I don't have a say because it's more his house than it is mine,
Oh, nuh-uh.
which I didn't take lightly.
You're the full-time cast
There's
member
like
in this situation.
there's a small there's a small scene where everyone else is blowing up and you can see me and Austin and you can see my hands in the back like moving animated, and we're by the fire, which is when we had that conversation. I'm like, I can tell that that's when I was like, oh hell no, like no, that's not what we're doing here.
Not this.
I live here, you don't. Like, show some respect. And or like continue your rampage away from me. So yeah, it's bad. What he did was bad. It was messy.
It was really messy.
TV.
It's interesting that you say that sort of at the wedding you had a lot of fun with him, because that must sort of, I feel like there's this sort of like essence about Austin that people must get in person, that like that when he's like in his like really fun mode or something, that like kind of lets your guard down a little bit.
Described to me, and I expected far more when he first came to the house, and when I first met him this summer. I will say that it may have been easier during the wedding because I had my expectations that I managed myself, and maybe I just lowered the bar so much that I was like, oh, he's not so bad. And maybe it was because at that point, well, for the most part, he wasn't engaging.
There was almost like nowhere for him to go but up in your eyes, maybe at that by the end of the summer, maybe. Like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's
mostly
right. Yeah. Right, totally. And I think something that a takeaway that I've gotten from this whole Lindsey, Sierra, Austin thing is like, you know, we had Lindsey and Sierra going after each other instead of, and I feel like Austin kind of he avoided some of the heat that was probably deserved for him. But I also, again, in seeing sort of how viewers are reacting to this episode, I feel like a lot of people are putting it on Sierra, and I don't think that's fair. I think it's sort of, I don't
think it's fair either.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair. And I'm curious what you thought of that, if you noticed that, because again, there's three people in this scenario. And I think it's the kind of blame is not being evenly distributed.
Well, one, I always said to Sierra, like, you need to talk to Lindsey. We don't know what's going on. We haven't heard it from her mouth. Let's figure out exactly what the situation is before we are all jumping to conclusions. Lindsey kind of like avoided the conversation or never really gave. Well, her answers were that there was nothing there, and maybe there is nothing there. But for people that there's nothing there with, I don't kiss them on the mouth. So I can't put myself in her position because I just don't do that with my friends, and I don't have that dynamic with my friends. I'm sure with her, I mean, I've kissed Lindsey on the mouth, so I know that
that's how she is, kind of. Yeah,
it's not exclusive. I just don't operate that way, so it's hard for me to be like, okay, cool, you know that this girl likes him, and you don't seem to actually care for him in a way that's deep. I didn't know about the Winter House I Love You stuff. I didn't know that.
Right.
So seeing that, for her, it seemed like fun, and you know, it's my birthday, I do whatever I want. Whereas like there's a person here that's hurting very visibly. That was hard to watch. And you know, I was reading the Vulture article about like, yes, it may be your birthday, but like you can't get away with everything. And I honestly agree with that. Like you still are going to be yourself tomorrow and have to deal with this. I think what it comes down to is that Lindsey and Sierra didn't have a good relationship to begin with. So there was no respect for the dynamics that were evolving around us. But that doesn't make it okay.
Yeah. I think that's, I think it's sort of like you're right. The foundation there, and I think it is not there. And I think Sierra views what Lindsey should be doing one way, and Lindsey views what she should be doing another way. And I think in some ways it's just like a difference of opinion. But I think it sort of colors how people react to it.
Listen, I've had so many conversations with both of them, but particularly with Lindsey about this concept of girl code. And I think that while many women find it to be universal, everyone has their own rules for girl code. And the rules that Sierra, and honestly, like I follow the rules that Sierra follows as well, are not the rules that Lindsey follows.
Yeah, and I think that's evident. Like I believe that. And in some ways it's sort of like, okay, you can't really change that probably at this point, but who
In
knows?
a way, I'm like, I don't. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
We could talk about this all day
Oh,
long.
I'm sure. Yeah, let's 45 minutes on that. So I mean, again, we're deep into the summer, but obviously there's still a lot to come. What else can you kind of tease for me in terms of what's coming up in the next several weeks? I know you have a date. I know there's obviously we ended with the wedding. What's in between there?
I'm really excited. We have a very fun day activity that I think will be really fun for viewers to watch. And I'm excited to watch it myself because I know I had a lot of fun that day when we had a volleyball competition. So I'm excited to see that. And I think, honestly, last episode, Monday, is like the peak of when it all just goes like there literally I don't think that there's any day that doesn't have drama beyond what like our good days have happened. You all have seen them. It only gets worse.
Yeah.
So you'll the tension you can cut with a knife. You'll feel it. I mean, I can't imagine not seeing that and feeling it as a viewer because it was so palpable in the house. And I think that honestly, that's what's going to take over the rest of our fun and our activities.
Let me ask you this: is there an effort for Lindsey and Sierra to come together? There isn't. It's just not gonna
that
happen.
I saw.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that as you all saw in the episode, Sierra did try to have a conversation with Lindsey. Also, drinking involved, end of the night, not the best time, but we also saw after our pool party, Sierra tried to speak to Lindsey about it. And I just don't think, again, the foundation wasn't there. The mutual respect, just like showing empathy, general empathy to a person that you live in the same house with just was not there.
And then, I'm also curious again, because your visibility and platform has really kind of skyrocketed through the show, and I'm curious how is that affecting business with the Need blog? Are you like swimming in cookie orders? Like tell me how. Oh my God!
As I'm talking to you, I'm enjoying this conversation wholeheartedly, but I'm like, oh, the amount of cookies that could be produced. No, right now business is entirely insane. I can't put it into words. I thought I was prepared. I was not prepared. But I always wanted to do a business where I was just dropping cookies, similar to like a Beyonce album drop type of thing. And now I have the platform to do that.
Yeah.
So now I have a waiting list. I'm not taking orders right now. I'm catching up, and I have a wait list of the people that want that next drop. So I plan on doing a lot of drops around the reunion, a lot of drops around the finale, to get people like really excited for the end of the season, and then we'll continue to do them as the year goes on.
I love hearing that. I need to try the cookies. I have not because you're not taking.
Are you in New York City?
I am in New York City. Yes.
Okay, we'll chat after.
We got to make it happen. But I love to hear that. I think it just speaks to the power of what this show can do for you. Are you a one-man band? Are you turning
no,
out?
I have
do you have help?
Team.
Okay, good.
It can't be. I used to be a one-man band.
Right.
No, I cannot be the lead singer and drummer at the same time. And so, yeah, I've definitely been expanding. It's weird to even say like I have a personal assistant now, but like I can't even keep up with my emails. So I have a personal assistant, and that in itself is what a weird life to even say that. What a weird world. I joked last.
It's only up from here. Like I just think that, like, again, I'm not blowing smoke. I think I'm one of the many people that have reacted so well to you being on this show. And again, we've had some people come in and out really quickly on Summer House over the years, and it hasn't, for better or for worse, it has not worked out for some of them. But I feel good about your prospects of being in this world, and
fingers crossed.
Yeah, no, I hope you stick around, because I think a lot of people are just, I don't know, it's just if you bring a lot of positivity to this but and also personality. You're bringing both, and I think it's great.
It's so weird because I think, like, generally speaking, I'm not a positive, like, I'm not like, woo, life is great, let's go, like, glass is half full, or yeah, whatever, glass is full, whatever the people say. See, like, I can't even speak to it. But in that setting, compared to my housemates, like, I ended up being somewhat of like a voice of reason, which is like that in itself. That shows you how like wacky we are.
That shows you where it's going to devolve to, too. I'm sure it's just.
Yeah, like if I'm the baseline, we're not doing well.
So I feel like by the end of the summer, you guys must be so exhausted that it's just sort of like the fuses are short. The fuses are short by the end.
Oh my God. There's like you couldn't get away with anything with me towards the end of the summer. I was like, don't talk to me. I have nothing nice to say. Give me a minute. Like it's a lot. And I think when filming wrapped, I remember I closed all the shades in my apartment. I had my dogs on the couch and I sat in the dark in quiet for like hours, and I was like, oh my God, it's just so nice to like not hear anything. So yes, it takes time to adjust back, but now I forgot all of that and I'm like, the PTSD is gone and I'm like, I'll go back.
Well, Mya, this was so much fun. I'm so glad I got some time with you. Where can people find out more about the Need blog and maybe sign up for those future drops?
Yeah, follow us on Instagram at the Need blog, and then our website is theneedblog.com, and you can sign up for our waiting list, or you can just DM us. I have an assistant now, so she will take all your DMs and get you on the wait list, and then you'll be notified for drops.
Awesome. Well, Mya, thank you so much. I'm excited to see the rest of the season and beyond from you.
Thanks, Gibson.
Yeah, of course.
This was so fun.
Thanks for tuning in to We Should Talk. I hope you enjoyed the interview. You can find out more about In the Know at intheknow.com. You can follow me, Gibson Johns, at Gibsonoma on Twitter and Instagram. And you can listen to all of our interviews, past and future, by searching We Should Talk wherever you get your podcasts. Hope to see you next time.